Hi, I'm Tim with Selfless Awakening. This is day 22 of my 30 Days of Awakening series that I started a few weeks ago, and it's very exciting. This is day 22, and this video is a day behind. Actually, it's 2 days behind. 2 days ago, Instagram went down, Facebook went down, and WhatsApp, they all kind of weren't working so well, and I was in my groove. It was day 22, and they weren't working. And so I decided to kind of step back and not do my day 22 video and use that as a time to reflect on social media and social media in our lives. How do we use social media mindfully? What's the algorithm? How does this algorithm that social media has play into our experiences as awakening people who are, becoming present and stepping out of our egos? Like, how do we deal with this thing that can crash and go down when you have plans and come back up? And how is it impacting our lives as human beings? And that was really clear to me that that was the thing to talk about for day 22. So yesterday, I went on, and the way I've been doing these videos is I'll have an Instagram live story set up next to me, and then I talk into the camera, the YouTube camera, and go back and forth and have some discussion with people around the topic. And so I had it set up yesterday, and there's a talk. The talk is still up actually on Instagram still, but it's going to be going down because they shut the story down every 24 hours. But it was a talk. It was so funny because the internet connection was going out. It was like, it just wasn't flowing. It was almost like Instagram or the social media algorithm gatekeepers didn't like me talking about how much the algorithm is addictive and not good for us and that kind of thing. So I'm now doing another video that's clearer because I had to move the camera around. So I wanted to do a video to talk to you guys about that topic of how do we do this? Like, transcending the algorithm. That's what this video is going to be called. Transcending the algorithm, how to use social media mindfully, okay? And at first I just want to talk a little bit about what's happening with social media, what the people that make the algorithm are doing, what the algorithm is, and what do we do about it, okay? So here's the idea. I'm going to check out and get to a place of clarity on where I'm speaking to this topic from, okay? And then we're going to zoom in from there. I want to speak to this topic of social media from the mindset, from the idea that we are the awareness, the constant non-physical presence that's there, even if our thoughts are not happening. Thoughts are happening, thoughts are not happening, we're the presence, always there. And when we learn to live inside of that awareness, that stillness, that presence as our primary identification, everything becomes much easier. Everything becomes, the world is much easier when you're not identified with everything you're doing and obsessed with it, compulsively. So a big part of this awakening journey is learning how to get into that place of peacefulness and stillness. So how does that play in with social media? Social media doesn't want you to do that. All of the tricks and tools that are created by the makers of social media are there to try to get you to stay involved in the app as much as you can, which makes perfect sense. They want you on the app as long as they can because that's how they make money. That's how they get your information. That's how they can advertise to you. They want you on the app. And so on one level, our awakening is about becoming detached and peaceful no matter what's happening and stepping out of identification with the voice stream in our head. And on another level, we want to connect with each other, which requires us to go into a medium of social media and get super tempted by all of this bombarding information, hypnotic marketing tools to try to distract us and keep us in a sort of unconscious state so that we're able to be subconsciously programmed with things to buy and stuff like that. Like, that's their goal. So it's like, it doesn't feel like the mindful step to not interact with it at all, because that's where everybody is. The world's there right now, and you want to reach people. You want to sell things. You want to be a part of, but you don't want to be consumed by the world, right? And so I just want to talk about that a little bit of how do we stay present and how do we stay evolving consciously when after scrolling through Instagram our minds we go completely unconscious and we do a post and we keep checking in 5 times, 10 times to see if someone's liking the post, and if you don't get as many likes today as you did yesterday, there's this diminishment of feeling, and if you do a post where everybody loves you, then you feel this boost. Like, I just want to look at that for a minute, okay? Because I believe, just like years ago when they talked about smoking not being great for you, we're in that infancy stage of all of these people on their phones all the time and what that's going to be doing to us in the future. I have this friend who does studies of behavioral studies of kids, and he was telling me about how kids now, they can't cope, they have no coping mechanism if something's bothering them if they don't have their phones. Like the study, I forget the exact details, but the gist of it was a kid would, the kid was stressed out, and then the testing was to see how well they could get to calm after being stressed out, and it was like it took a ridiculous amount of time, like 20 minutes without their phone, and then 2 or 3 minutes with their phone. It's like kind of like a pacifier or like a soothing thing. It's like these phones become this way to it's like I don't know, it is like a pacifier, like this security thing that kids are using now as an extension of themselves. And how incredibly unhealthy is that we're not teaching our kids anymore how to process things that are coming up in a very aware way. If you have something bothering you and you're not willing to look at it and you just need your phone to distract you from it, you're not learning from that thing that came up. And that's what these phones are doing, not just to kids, it happens to us too. I catch myself, like if I'm not really present, I'll catch myself, like I'll be standing in line and I'll just grab my phone and I'll be looking, wait, why am I on my phone? And it's so easy because in our culture now, the least bit of uncomfortableness that you have in society, what do? We reach for our phones. We're like, I'm uncomfortable standing in line waiting for the bathroom, standing next to this person in a restaurant. Let's all go on our phones and hide, you know? And we're doing it just because of the lack of wanting to be by ourselves, right? And we don't want to beat ourselves up for that, because here's the thing. It would be weird for us to not be doing that based on what the algorithm in social media is doing to us now. And if you don't know what I mean by the algorithm, what I'm talking about when I talk about the algorithm is I'm talking about the people that are creating the rules for the way that we interact with each other on social media, the rules that dictate how many people see your videos or don't see your videos or posts. Because not every post that you post is shown to all of the people that follow you on your social media, and there are very specific mathematical equations, things that people have engineered up as ways to get you kind of hooked on social media in that reward center part of your brain, the same part of your brain that you can get addicted to sugar or drugs. It's like there's a part of your brain, they're trying to get you addicted to checking in on your posts, how many people liked your posts, how your posts are performing, what are other people saying. And there's all of these tricks they do. Like, for instance, they want you to, as soon as you post, be sharing it as much as possible. And in that first amount of time that you post something, if you really want to have it move forward and get a lot of interaction, you have to be on all the time. Why do you think they do that? They do that because they want you to be on the app as much as possible. So they're trying to get you hooked on how well your posting is performing so that you keep checking in. And then if a lot of people like your post, they know that that hits the reward center part of your brain, and then you get addicted a little. You're like, ooh, I felt good from my post yesterday. I'm going to do another post today because it made me feel good that so many people liked it. And then you do the post the next day and you're like, wait, I didn't get as many views or as many likes. And there's a little sense of diminishment, because what's happening in your brain is your brain, which was releasing, giving you that dopamine, that reward center part of your brain was kicking in. When you didn't get as many views as you did yesterday, you don't get as much of that dopamine release. You don't get as much of that drug fix. The drug doesn't work as well. So you keep trying harder, and you go on longer, and you do more and more and more to try to get that fix. It's literally a drug. Guys, the people that make the algorithms for social media are the equivalent to drug dealers in that respect. They're trying to get us hooked on their product, and they're using every technique necessary, every technique they can think of to do it. My daughter was telling me about Snapchat, and I'm not on Snapchat, but she said that she's 15, and so all of her friends are on Snapchat, but nobody's even interacting socially on Snapchat anymore, she said. She said all that her friends are doing is they're doing this, like, you try to get a streak of every day having some interaction with the same person, and then that boosts your streak score. It's like, and it doesn't even mean anything. It's just somebody at Snapchat said, let's find a way to make them want to be on the app all the time by, tagging someone. If you do it every day, you get, higher, you get to move up some whatever ranking system they have. I don't know. But like, that's how this works, is they just want to create as many tricks as possible to get you on there. And notice they constantly keep changing the rules. Why do they keep changing the rules? They change the rules, they change the app design, so that you have to go in and learn where the new menus are. And you have to learn, oh, what's the new feature now? Now I have Insta Stories, now I have IGTV, now I can post my IGTV videos into my live feed or into my news feed. It's like they're trying to do as many things as they can to keep us on their platform as much as possible, right? And because of that, it's very easy to become addicted. And because of that, we become identified with the voice in our head, and we live there. And we live in a time that's more challenging than ever to be able to live as yourself, as the identification of self, as not that voice in your head that they're trying to get you to stay in all the time. But it's harder than ever now to stay in this presence. Like, we don't have people sitting out on the back porch for hours and hours just rocking in a chair watching traffic go by, because they don't have a TV, they don't have a radio, they don't have a phone. They're just sitting in life. Like, we don't do that anymore. Nobody's bored anymore because we have these phones constantly distracting us, right? One of the things about being bored is learning how to sit inside of the deepest part of yourself and make peace with all that's happening. I know that I know when I go out to meditate in the morning, if I feel myself kind of reaching for my phone, like if my hand's like unconsciously grabbing for it, like, oh, maybe don't forget to, it's like that's a strong indication for me that I need to get still and quiet because I'm too identified with my mind. And that's the key. Like when we talk about Buddhism and they talk about the end of suffering, or so many teachers talk about that. The end of suffering is the end of identification with the voice in your head, with that mind, with this mind stream. And it takes an incredible amount of presence to do that while you're looking at the device that's literally trying to get you to have your mind identify with it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like this is one of our next evolutions that we have to learn. So, how do we interact with social media without getting addicted to it? In other words, it's kind of like, how do we eat processed sugar and not get addicted to it? It's almost as hard as that. But there are beautiful benefits to social media, like right now. Like I get to share my ideas about how the algorithm is messing with us and what to do about it, And so here we go. Here's what we do. This is the way to work on it. You can use your interaction with your phone as a test for your mindfulness practice, okay? And you can start to develop, as I have and as a lot of people I know, a barometer for when you're getting compulsive and addicted to your phone. And I know that you all, like, I feel there's very few people out there nowadays who haven't had some experience with a little bit of phone compulsion, or where you feel like you just keep grabbing at it, and you're like, wait, why do I keep checking my phone? Put it down, go do something else. It's like, it's very easy for us to get to that place. And what we can do is we can use that as part of our, a barometer for how identified we are with the mind, with the avatar self, with the idea self, like me, Tim, and Tim's story, and Tim's business, and Tim's shit he's got going on. It's directly related, how much I take my life seriously and how much I just have to stay on my phone is directly related to how in my ego I'm identified. So, what you can do, what I do, is I'll go on Instagram sometimes as a meditation, and I'll scroll, and I try to stay in that field of awareness. I'm aware of myself as awareness, and I sit there and I imagine the space around the phone when I'm looking at it, and I get really still and really present. And then I scroll, and I'll notice the voice in my head's commenting maybe on the picture, and then usually I'll do some piloted thinking where I hop in the piloted seat and I'll say some positive affirmation about the picture or about the comment, about the story, and then I just think of it as I'm going to spread love. And I observe if my voice gets judgmental or critical. I'm like, oh, interesting, look at how I'm judging that, because then that shows me something that I can release. But I do it from a place, it's like I get really present first before I go on there, so that those little tricks that Instagram is using or Facebook is using, where there's like an ad pops up, or there will be a certain amount of likes here, or a live story pops up, or something's distracting me. Like, I will just stay focused on spreading the love and getting very centered, staying aware of myself as awareness while I scroll, and just getting very deep into that like a meditation practice. And then you start to learn how to look at your phone and be detached from it. Another technique that I like to use is turn off notifications. We're going to check. It's much better to check in on our phone when we want to, as opposed to the notifications. And they don't want you to turn off notifications. Everybody wants you to turn on notifications. I even say it on this YouTube video, turn on notifications to stay up to date on my latest video. Yeah, that's me being a part of the matrix, but at least I feel good about it, because the things that I'm putting into your awareness hopefully are things that are going to help you detach from the whole game of mind identification with our phones and with the world. So I'm kind of like, I'm in the matrix trying to break down the matrix. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my focus. So, but the idea is like there's a lot of that energy of everything wanting to pop up all the time. And I'd encourage you, even though I say turn on notifications for my videos, I still encourage you to turn off notifications because that's constantly distracting. It's like there's always an interruption, and we don't have that ability to focus because we're everybody's having these ADD style interrupt. We're all a little ADD these days because of the phones. They're constantly interrupting us. Our brain isn't good at staying on task for a while. So turn off notifications. That's another thing we can do. And in general, when you do a post, be very present to your compulsive energy, or the energy that when you start to feel like, the biggest time to pay attention is when you do a post that a lot of people interact with. Notice how that makes you feel. Notice how it makes you feel good. You feel validated. Notice that, ooh, I feel important today. That very feeling you feel is exactly the drug. That's the social media drug. That's the thing you want to look at and be able to go, oh, I see what he means. Like, yeah, okay, I'm feeling that high. So tomorrow, I want to be really mindful that it's okay if my post doesn't perform as well, because if it doesn't perform as well, it would be very logical for the ego that feels big and boasted today is going to feel a little diminished. And it's a great practice for you to see how your sense of self can very easily get tied into your level of validation from others on social media. And that's the thing we want to detach from. We want to be able to use social media without being attached to others' reactions to our posts. And at least learning, at least in the beginning, learning how that energy can happen. There's nothing wrong with feeling good about a post that people like. There's nothing wrong with feeling bad or feeling a little, I thought people were going to like that, but they didn't respond to it. Nothing wrong with that either. But it's a matter of observing the potential for compulsion, of the obsessiveness, because once you get to that point, you're in the reward center part of your brain. You're in the drug part of your brain. You're in the part of your brain that can go eat too many cupcakes because, you don't feel good. You felt great yesterday. You don't feel good today, so you try to fill that hole with likes on your post, with cupcakes, with alcohol, with drugs, with sex, whatever it is. And this is just one other way now that we can get addicted to things. So we have to look at it. And it's beautiful for connecting. It's beautiful for all of this. But we've got to be really mindful, okay? So So I encourage, like, one of the tricks I like to do is go against the algorithm. Even though you know they want you to interact, and even though you know you may not get as many views, do a post and then walk away. Don't check it until later that night or tomorrow morning. Just leave it alone. Don't go on Instagram at all. Like, leave it alone. Walk away. Go do something in the real world. Real world, what's that mean, right? Go do something in this physical world, right? Stay out, just take a break from the digital dimension. A lot of studies are coming out that are talking about the more screen time you have, the more depressed you are, and it's becoming obvious. And this is going to be our next smoking, staying addicted to the phone. Think about also, there's so many problems with it, like your posture. Everyone sits like this now. My daughter's generation is going to be a bunch of hunchback Quasimodos. Everybody's like this all the time. Who sits up straight nowadays, right? So, balance. There's nothing better than, like, our bodies, our minds connect much differently in person. If you all who are watching this video were to be sitting here with me, having this conversation in a room together, interacting, we would be way more stimulated and way more plugged in than we are than you listening to this video or when I do these live chats, which are fun and rewarding, and I do feel a joyfulness from them, but I still don't feel the same connection as if everyone was sitting here together. There's something about us needing to actually socialize, where these social interactions that we have online, yes, there is a reality to them, and yes, there can be a sense of fulfillment from them, but that's not the same as human beings, these physical bodies, being in contact with other physical bodies. So be very careful to not think that these interactions are substitutes, okay? And know that when you're on the phone, they were trying to get you hooked on it, okay? So social media, these algorithms are trying to get you hooked. Here's one little way. And they use I won't go into it anymore. Just trust me that these algorithms are trying to get you hooked, and there are lots of smart people figuring out ways to do it. And it's your job to be more mindful, more attached to your inner awareness than to be sucked into that, which is a great practice for us in life anyway, right? So use it as a practice. It's nothing to avoid, but it's something to be mindful with, okay? So that's my encouragement for today. That's what my live chat was about yesterday. And so there you go. Have a beautiful day. Hope that helps. This is talking about transcending the algorithm and learning how to use social media mindfully. If you like what I'm talking about, subscribe and click the little notification. But turn your notifications off. Have a great day.